Hey ladies, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about what is polarity. I'm pretty happy that this topic is trending. It's now a thing to talk about it, but it's not quite mainstream yet. And part of my purpose is to make this mainstream, right? To make sure everyone knows what that is and that you are taking this into consideration when you are dating. Why is it important to know about this, or why would you care? Because if you're thinking about the long run, you're going to have to be aware and conscious about what this means. So what does it mean? Polarity is when we have two poles, two opposites. So you have man and you have woman, okay? They are wildly different, okay? One of them is the masculine, one of them is the feminine poles. The more polarity there is, the stronger the magnetism, okay? So when you have magnets, one is the positive pole, the other one is the negative pole. Yeah? So without positive and negative, you have no magnetism. Without feminine and masculine, there is no magnetism. The more similar you are, the more equal you are, the less different. So the less polarity, the less, attraction. The more equal you want to be with a man, and we're talking about equals, like, of course, yeah, everyone is like, valuable, blah, 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 obvious. But we're talking about the more you behave like a man, the more you have masculine energy, the less polarity, the less magnetism there will be. You're like, well, why do I need to know this? So at first, pretty much all relationships, they are at their natural, strongest polarity. This is called the honeymoon period. The honeymoon period lasts anywhere from a year and a half to 2 years. That's why when you first have a relationship, it's all fun and games, it's all fine and dandy. So after a couple of years pass, you're going to have to start to be conscious about this. You're going to start to be self-aware and create polarity intentionally, right? That's why, in marriages, if you don't know what polarity is, if you're not conscious about your energy and your behaviors and things, there's going to be issues. Okay? So if you have no idea about this stuff, most relationships, again, are all that for the first year or two, right? So that's why you go from relationship to relationship without knowing what really went wrong, other than the obvious, I guess. Okay. I myself, grew up, where I come from, it was, I am born and raised in Mexico, as many of you know. And over there, this is information that, or knowledge and embodiment that is passed from generation to generation. The whole polarity thing seems to be a new thing in the North America and, in Europe, parts of the Western world. Whereas in Mexico, in some cultures in Latin America, in India and Pakistan, they live and breathe that. So me growing up, I grew up living it without really knowing the words. It was only when I lived in Sweden for a year, when I was 16, I was an exchange student in Sweden for 1 year, an AFS intercultural international student. Okay. So I lived with a Swedish family, for a year. And at first I was fascinated about how different the family dynamic was. I was so impressed with the women being so career driven and so equal to men. But lo and behold, as time passed, I started to wonder, why is a mom and dad, why are they so roommate-like? In a whole year that I lived there in Sweden, in their house, they were my family, my Swedish family. My room was right next to the mom and dad's room. Okay? For an entire year, their door was open at night and any other time. And I asked, my Swedish mom, why that was. And she told me, you see, here in Sweden, we marry for companionship. She's like, you want to marry a companion. Okay. And then, at times I would, the subject would come up where I was like, oh, look, my mom, she just got, there would be a picture of my mom, tending to some roses or whatever. And she'd be like, oh, your mom still gets flowers from your dad? Oh my God, how cute. Oh my God, how romantic. The Latin cultures are so romantic, aren't they? She's like, oh, and he also opens the doors and he also treats her like they're still dating. She's like, oh, how cute. The Latin cultures. And that is the polarity, ladies and gentlemen, when, growing up with my parents, they've been married for 44 years now, and throughout their time, they always had that polarity. So, yeah, I grew up with that, where it was more like they were dating and they were there clearly was romance and an attraction with them. Now, let's go back to the comment that my Swedish mom made to me. You want to marry a companion. So very much so, their relationship was that of roommates. Okay. And a lot of the women in my practice that come to me, they come to me because they want to stop that roommate dynamic. Okay. Nobody wants that. You know what? Because sure, it makes some logical sense that you would want, companionship, of course. You would want maybe a roommate. We'll talk about partnership. It makes some logical sense, but what you're forgetting is human nature. You are, I'm going to say it, we have an animal nature to us. You have that human nature in addition to your consciousness. And you can't escape it. Why do you think people cheat, this and that? Because they're looking for that attraction, that polarity. It's a human need to feel that romantic attraction, that polarity with someone you're with. Otherwise, you get bored. You don't want it. You don't want to be in a roommate situation, even if it makes some kind of logical sense. Okay? It's it can feel lonely, you know, in the long run. Okay? So what is a marriage? So when I first came to Canada, they used the word partner. Like, you have a partner. I was like, what the fuck is this partner? What do you mean partner? Like business partner? Like associate? Like, to me, it was like business, right? Or something. Like, I thought it was a strange term to use to describe a husband or that kind of thing, right? So what is marriage? Marriage is a series of things. Of course, there is partnership. There is friendship. There is romance. So marriage has a component of partnership. But the more you make it a point for it to be more of a partnership, the less romance, the less polarity that there will be. So some of my clients, they, you know, they've come with issues where they're basically wanting their husband to be like a girlfriend, you know, talk about things on and, you know, chit chat and, you know, treat their husbands like they're a girlfriend, telling them everything and blah, blah, blah. So sure, my husband is my best friend, but I don't use him as a girlfriend. Like, he's not a dumpster for my emotions. He's not my therapist. He's not someone I use to have endless chit chat and conversation like I would with a friend, a girlfriend. Because the more I used him as that kind of friend, you know, he is my best friend in that he's my ride or die. He's always there for me. He will always be there for me, like no one else, and I trust him more than anyone in the world. But he's not my girlfriend. I don't use him for, you know, that type of chit chat. So the more you have partnership or that kind of girlfriend friendship, the less romance, the less polarity there will be. So at times you may want it to be more romance. At times you may need it to be more partnership, right? So as you can see, this is a dynamic. It's fluid. It's energy that moves and comes and goes. So this is why it's important for you to know what this is and know how and when to be in your feminine energy, when to be in your masculine, when you need that. Okay? So this is what helps you have a successful relationship in the long term, when you understand energy dynamics. Okay? So I was lucky enough to live it, grow up with it, in my culture and in my family. So now I get to teach this. How crazy is that? So yeah, you guys, the stuff that I teach you is not for you to be successful in the short term of 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. We're going for 3 decades, for 3 lifetimes, forever. Okay, so I guess I've only been married for almost 13 years. But knowing this is what has helped me stop making stupid mistakes, like being controlling, which is being in your masculine, right? It's a very, very common issue when you first get married, right? Or at some point, you start to have controlling behaviors, like, should you go to the gym? Should you eat this, this, and that? If you're not aware and conscious of how you're stepping into your masculine energy with your husband, then that's when the issues come. So again, this is empirical knowledge passed generations to generations, from grandma to mom, from mom to daughter, in my culture, in Mexico, where I grew up, and many other cultures like India, Pakistan, Japan, many other places in China. So this used to exist in the Western world, in Europe and in North America, probably 3-4 generations ago. It went away and it was a wreck. You ended up with the highest rates of separations and things. Okay? So yeah, ladies, keep it in mind. And the more same, the less equal, or the more dissimilar you are to your husband in your energy, masculine versus feminine, the more attraction, polarity, romance you will be able to keep in the long term, where you have to be conscious about it. Okay? That's it for now, ladies. And yeah, talk to you guys soon. Bye.